So it's again my pleasure to introduce our second speaker for this evening's event, Dr. Amal Nazal. Dr. Nazal is an assistant professor at the Faculty of Business and Economics at Beirut University. Her research interests include organizational mechanisms and dynamics in sociocultural organizations, intersectionality theory, feminist organizing, social capital, social network theory, which is very close to my heart, by the way, Amal, and new social media and organization. She's also interested in new research methods such as digital ethnography and social media content analysis. She's an advisory board member at the Institute of Women's Studies, IWS, the BDS movement, and the Right to Education campaign in Beirut University. Her research has been published in journals such as the Journal of Business Research, Human Relation, and written opinion pieces in Al-Shabaka, Matras Institute for Palestine Studies, the Palestinian Digital Rights Organization, Hamle, Middle East Monitor, Mondoways, and Alexander von Humboldt Institute for Internet and Society. So without any further ado, Amal, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Is my voice clear enough for everyone?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you, Professor Mustafa, for your talk. It's a pleasure, actually, to have this connection with AUB and Beirut University, and to host two lecturers, academics from Beirut. So thank you so much. And before I start anything, I just want to send my and our deepest and strongest salute to Gaza, to our people in Gaza, to all the people who have and still been killed, to our men, women, children. Salute to their resistance and salute to their steadfastness. What's happening in Gaza is horrific, as everyone knows. And hopefully one day, and definitely one day, this will end. So salam لغزة ولكل أهالينا في غزة. So, and as you can see from my first slide, our professor and doctor, Rifat El-Arair, he's a poet, he's a writer, he's an academic, he's a professor who have been killed in Gaza on the 6th of December 2023, when he said, if I die, let it bring hope. I hope that we are bringing hope while we are still alive as Palestinian academics, as sarcastic as it might sound or sad as it might sound, but we are the ones who are still alive as Palestinians, academics and lecturers and educators who have and should continue conveying this message of our history as Palestinians, of what the Israeli occupation and colonization have done to our history, culture, and land and academia in general. So the talk is about telling our own stories as Palestinian educators, academics in Palestine. And when I was thinking about my own story, I was thinking and articulating and theorizing my thoughts around this triangular. I do believe that there are three important, and let me tell you, this is something that I'm thinking about what does it mean to be a Palestinian academic in Palestine? What does it mean to research in Palestine? What does it mean to produce a Palestinian paper? What does it mean to speak about our indigenous Palestinian narrative? So I was thinking about these three, I do assume, important pillars and perspectives about how we can look at Palestinian academia, also from a historic point of view. Because I do believe if we can't reflect back in time historically what happened to the higher education in Palestine, to the Palestinian academic in Palestine, there's no way to better understand and to dig deeper and understand what's happening at the moment in Palestine. And what I mean in Palestine, I mean historic Palestine. As Dr. Mustafa said, the circumstances in the West Bank and what's happening in the West Bank is totally different of the genocide, the ongoing genocide that's happening in Gaza at the moment, and even what's happening in occupied territories in 1948. For example, the arrest of the Professor Nadira Shalhoub, a Palestinian in Hebrew University of Jerusalem. So the geopolitical fragmentation of Palestine is also playing different role in understanding how Palestinian academia dynamics are happening and playing in different shapes and modes. So first of all, I want to introduce a terminology that I was also myself introduced to just like months ago, when I was thinking about what literature provides us when an educational knowledge system is completely, continuously threatened, destroyed, marginalized, and silenced. Dr. Mustafa mentioned the word educide, and this is a terminology that has been spread all over the internet and social media about the education and genocide, so educide and what's happening in Gaza. But I want to speak more about epistemicide. So the first pillar and the first most important element of what's happening to the Palestinian knowledge and the Palestinian production knowledge in large is epistemicide. And epistemicide, so this is the first point. So epistemicide is a systematic destruction of an indigenous knowledge system. It's a systematic destruction and killing, devaluation, silencing of a knowledge system which has to do with indigenous production of knowledge, thoughts, and philosophy. So epistemicide has to do with the linkage of between epistemology and genocide. So Palestine actually has been experiencing Israeli epistemicide since the British Mandate. I will be sharing with you an article published by the Institute of Palestine Studies about the Israeli epistemicide going back through time since the British Mandate, when Zionist Israeli when the British Mandate enlarged and British Mandate officials support Zionist Israeli higher education institutions to revive and to be established. For example, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, which was established in 1925, is a great evidence and a good example of what's happening back in time in comparison to many obstacles and threats of the establishment of Palestinian higher education institutions or even universities back in time. Epistemicide, which is again, a systematic, targeted killing, silencing, devaluation, killing of personas as well, intellectuals as well, of indigenous people, just like to destroy the system of producing indigenous knowledge, has been studied in Latin America, the epistemicide of African literature and indigenous knowledge, the epistemicide of Indian as well knowledge back in time in history, and it's a thought and it's a perspective to better analyze how the power of colonizers and settlers are dominating spaces in different spaces and aspects and structural system to dominate the narrative, to produce the hegemonic colonizing narrative, to produce the dominant knowledge of the colonizer and to silence and to marginalize the indigenous, resisting, grounded, rooted, counter-hegemonic and heterogeneous as well narrative of the indigenous people in a way to colonize them through, knowledge and the narrative all in all. This also will produce what we call epistemic privileges for the colonizer and the settlers, and epistemic injustice for the colonized people. So my first point, that if we want to understand what happened to the Palestinian academia, if we want to understand what's happening to the Palestinian academics, we have to go back and understand what has been happening and still happening to the Palestinian academia, Palestinian higher education institutions, because epistemicide of the Palestinian knowledge has been there. The Nakba as well, the catastrophe in 1948, where around 800,000 Palestinians have been forcibly displaced from their homelands to be refugees all over the world in very disadvantaged circumstances. This period of time give nothing to the Palestinians to develop their higher education system, give no space, give no time or energy for Palestinians to revive, develop, or work on their educational infrastructure or research linkages as well. So speaking about what happened to the production of Palestinian knowledge has to do with understanding of the catastrophes that Palestinians have been facing since ever. Also, after Nakba, I don't know, can you see my slides? Yeah, we can, right? Very, very important thing as well is the assassination, the multiple assassinations of Palestinian intellectuals back in the 70s, 80s, and in the 90s. This is also epistemicide, which is not only happening in Gaza at the moment. In the genocide, as Dr. Mustafa said, around 100 academics, teachers, professors, Palestinian professors have been targetedly even killed. Their intellectual dreams, projects, research, affiliations, all of that have just like vanished. This as well happened back in time through the Israeli Mossad to many Palestinian intellectuals, and they have been assassinated in different places all over the world. For example, Ghassan Kanafani. Ghassan Kanafani is a Palestinian writer and poet, very well known. He was born in Akka in Palestine, and he was assassinated in Beirut in 1972. Dr. Mahmoud al-Hamshari, he was killed in Paris in 1972 as well. He's from Turkaram in the West Bank. Dr. Basil al-Kibaisi, although he's Iraqi Arab, but he was in full support of the Palestinian revolutionary back in time in the 70s. He was a professor. I was surprised. He was a professor in law in AUB, in the American University in Beirut, and he was killed in Paris in 1973. So all of these are pure, clear evidence of epistemicide, of Israeli epistemicide, of killing intellectuals, Palestinian intellectuals. And why so? As I said, it's the destruction of any counter-hegemonic resisting narrative of clearly stating the Israeli colonization, the Nakba, the displacement of the Palestinians, also the imprisonment of many Palestinian educators in the Israeli jails. There's a lot of engineers, professors in physics, in chemistry, social science, humanities, who are until now imprisoned in the Israeli jails. For example, Walid Daqqa. Walid Daqqa is a Palestinian writer, an intellectual mind, Palestinian mind as well, who was killed in the Israeli jail because he didn't get any medical care and support, although he was suffering from cancer. So I just want to give this idea that yes, what's happening in the killing of our own Palestinian professors and intellectuals in Gaza is horrific, but it has its own roots, right? It has its own roots of the systematic, very targeted Israeli epistemicide, Israeli willingness to kill the educational system in Palestine, to destroy the educational system of Palestine by killing intellectuals and by destroying or not giving any chance for Palestinian higher education institutions to revive and develop as others in comparison. What I want to say as well, that epistemicide is also practiced as a side differently in historic Palestine. So as I mentioned, and Dr. Mustafa mentioned, educide were all, I wouldn't repeat, and this is just the photo of the Islamic University in Gaza, just like a couple of seconds before it's completely destroyed on the ground. So it is clear what's happening to the Palestinian academia and the Palestinian university in Gaza, its intellectuals and professors as well. And this is also a list of all of our dearest professors and educators and teachers who we have lost. And when I think about them, as Dr. Rifat Al-Arair said, we are not numbers. These are not just like list of numbers. It's not like 5,000 or 7,000. Each and every number is a story. Each and every one, of these educators and professors has her or his own. We're in academia, research projects, intellectual projects, research affiliations, dreams, something big to say, but we lost all of them. And I will go back to my triangle when I started with epistemicide, and I think thinking of Palestinian production of knowledge and what's happening to the Palestinian academia from this perspective is very important and could lay the ground to better understand the current obstacles that we are facing as Palestinians. Because Dr. Mustafa, for example, at the end of his presentation, he was mentioning the affiliations with other universities, the fund issue, and many, let me call it, tactical kind of issues that has a lot of reasons linked to the Israeli colonization and to the Israeli epistemicide of the Palestinian educational system. So the methods of doing epistemicide in Palestine is militarization. It's Israeli militarization. In the literature of epistemicide could be practiced in different shapes, maybe non-violent shapes like marginalizing, silencing, and whatsoever. I'm speaking about different contexts, but in Palestine, in Gaza and in the West Bank, it's militarization. So I spoke about Gaza in the West Bank where we are based, both me and Dr. Mustafa in Beirut University, and there are other Palestinian universities, of course, Beit Lahan University, Polytechnic, Hebron University, and other, not only Beirut University, but maybe we're speaking about Beirut because we are based at Beirut University. So Israeli epistemicide in the West Bank is practiced through militarization. So we're speaking here about students and academics arrests, the mobility restrictions, and the university raid. There's a very, very important campaign and movement at Beirut, which I'm inviting everyone to visit. I will be sharing also the link of this campaign, is the Right to Education. And because I'm a member of the Right to Education campaign and movement, I will be telling you some statistics. So at Beirut University, there's around, until now, 120 arrests. So 120 students who have been arrested by the Israeli occupation forces. So this is one of the photos of the demonstration of our students inside the campus. So our students, for example, will start their 8 o'clock class, and then they will go to this demonstration to support a friend to walk in a march in their campus, and then go back to their other lectures. So this is how education inside the campus. And in some situation, this wasn't only a protest or demonstration to support, for example, one of their colleagues who might be a woman as well, like Ruba, who was arrested a couple of days ago. It might be also a funeral because one of their colleagues and friend have been killed. Because in Beirut University, 33 students have been killed by the Israeli occupation forces, 33. And there's a very, very well recognized, so these are one of the photos of our students, supporting their colleagues and friends who have been arrested from the university, from the campus itself, or from the street, or from their home. Some of these students, they are women as well. So lately, Layan Nasser and Layan Kayed, two of our students who have been also arrested by the Israeli jails. It's not only Layan Kayed and Layan Nasser, also other students. And let me tell you, since being arrested by the Israeli occupation forces and just like experience Israeli jails is horrific. But since the 7th of October, I think a lot of you is aware, of the horrific situation that Palestinian political prisoners are experiencing. And from a feminist perspective, there's a lot of harassment against women, political prisoners. So we know nothing about them at the moment. They are our students, and we know nothing about them, about their circumstances, what they have been experiencing. And they are just, university students who are supposed to live their higher education experience in much better ways. The university also have experienced long time of closure. So this is on the table, which is also on the Right to Education campaign website. Where you can see, I assume the numbers are a little bit small, but where you can see the time periods of the closure of the university. So the longest was in 1988, where the Beirut University was closed for around 1,571 days, like complete closure back in time. The university also has been raided multiple times at night and arresting students, destroying offices of the students, the student council, sabotaging, destroying computers, stealing laptops. The university, Beirut University, has been raided more than 20 times since 2002. Since only 2002, the university has been raided to 20 times. So I will go back also to my reflective kind of triangle, which I'm thinking about. I'm thinking of my story as Amal inside the epistemicide of the Palestinian knowledge, and why we cannot convey our own narratives as Palestinians. We're trying our best, and yes, we're succeeding, definitely, as Dr. Mustafa said, on different occasions. But the situation in Hall is very, very, very much difficult. And then I spoke how this is conducted through militarization, arrests, imprisonment, closure of the university, killing of the students as well. Another important thing, I assume, which I want to reflect on as well, is what I call the institutionalization of higher education in Palestine. So after Oslo in 1993 and the promise of the state building and the institutionalization and what we call it the NGOization of a lot of civil society organization, grassroots movements, feminist movements, labor movement in Palestine, including education, higher education has been professionalized. Higher education in Palestine has been largely also tied by foreign aid to determine what are the priorities in Palestinian academia now. How we can speak about Palestinian feminist issues now, how we have to speak about how business and economics are happening and playing different roles in Palestine now. And this is a big issue. Even the budgeting of education in large, so the total spending of education is around $1 billion. And 80% of the $1 million goes to wages. So there's barely nothing. Statistics speaking about 5% of the education budget just goes to development, which is barely nothing. So what I want to say in this slide, or in this final idea, after the epistemicide of the Palestinian knowledge through Israeli colonization and the Israeli occupation through militarization, the Palestinian Accord of Oslo in 1993 has largely disadvantaged the Palestinian higher education. And we can go through a couple of questions to explore this further. But the thing that the priorities of knowledge production have been shifted from our need to produce our counter-hegemonic resisting narratives, engaged scholarship with our politics, with our culture and social and very much needed issues in Palestine. So what we need to produce as people under occupation, as oppressed people, and experiencing genocide in Gaza, and experiencing occupation in the West Bank, and violation, racism in what's so-called Israel, is a production of resisting knowledge, of knowledge that could liberate our people, and a knowledge that could give the methods and tools for liberation through education and other phases as well. I don't know if I'm running out of time, but my final kind of slides, and this is also a question for all the audience in large, what we can do, not only as Palestinians, what we can do as people, as educators, as lecturers, as professors, as people who do believe of the historic colonization of Palestine, of what happened to Palestine, not even back in time, of the injustice happening in Palestine, of the right for Palestinians for self-determination, of the right for Palestinians for liberation. What can we do to stop this continuous, non-stop, by the way, Israeli epistemicide against Palestinian knowledge system? I think the answers could be multiple, could be as technical as Dr. Mustafa mentioned, regarding the research collaboration, hosting Palestinian students and scholars and whatsoever. But I think we also have to better understand what's happening also in Palestine from this perspective. It's not an external factor that we are just facing and that's it. It's not the Israeli occupation that we are facing, that's it. Or just like some restrictions in the mobility. It's just like there, it's nested and embedded in each and every detail while we are living and experiencing our lives as academics. I'm also very privileged and happy to tell you more about an initiative that the Palestinian universities in the West Bank started, which is إعادة الأمل, Rebuilding Hope. This initiative has to do with building as much as we can linkages with students, sadly said, alive students who are still alive, to help them finish some courses, some modules that they haven't finished, help them graduate if we can. It's still an initiative. We collected many statistics about Gazan students, and now we are in the phase of, spreading among others who can deliver this course and who can deliver this course. I'm pretty sure that a collaboration on this level is much needed to convey and help Gazan students to finish some modules in medicine, chemistry, physics, to help this student. It has this one pillar, and it has also a pillar of transformative research and how we can coordinate more with the higher education in Gaza. So I think this is my own story, delved in these three main pillars. I'm really happy to hear also any comments or clarification of what I provided, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amal. You both made it very well on time, and I mean, we have a lot of respect to all the courage and the sense of resilience and resistance that you sent to us from the occupied territories. And I mean, our deepest, thoughts and, feelings go to the Gazans. I mean, one cannot put words to what's going on and to the genocide that's unraveling. In the meantime, we've asked people to write in questions in the chats. There were people who put in a lot of comments. Don't worry, Amal, I'll be reading some of them. You don't have to go through the readings of the questions. There were a lot of comments in support, expressing the willingness to collaborate and to, maybe so many topics, let's say physics and general relativity, computational work. So there are so many message totally in support for science in Palestine in general. There were questions particularly, maybe we can start with very particular questions that have direct implications. If I may start from one of the last questions is coming from Ali Lizé, asking if there are specific fields of research that you consider more urgent to rebuild that have been more damaged. So from your perspective, can you comment on that? Both Professor Gerard and
yeah, go ahead.
Amal, you want to go, please?
No, I think we're still we're still in the middle of the genocide. It hasn't stopped to collect some statistics or data or to analyze what have been damaged more than the other, but it's just like a blindless destruction of everything. I mean, when a whole university has been bombarded completely just like destroyed on the ground, I mean, all the specifications, all the faculties, all the different fields of studies have been totally destroyed. I don't have a direct or concrete kind of answer, but I think we're still in the middle of the genocide where we are still not sure where we want to maybe start. I don't know, Dr. Mustafa, if you have a question regarding this, an answer, sorry.
Actually, maybe we cannot say there are some topics that are damaged, but in my opinion, we have to revisit our research priorities. So if you are doing research, I mean, like in our case, we are doing research on something we really changed. So doing research, for example, at least in computer science, on issues related to ethics, on detection of bias automatically, on detection of hate speech, not in Arabic, we don't care about it internally. We need in English and in Hebrew. So these are examples. In media, so there are maybe in media there are also research and activities are needed. So in each of you guys within your area, nobody is claiming that we should change totally into another field, another discipline, but we can just revisit our research priorities because what have happened is very serious. Thank you.
Thank you both. I also guess there was this concern coming from Mustafa on access to, let's say, journals and scientific publications and whatnot. And I think, I mean, countries that have been sanctioned or embargoed have gone through this before. And I'm not divulging a secret, but there's these shadow libraries that exist out on the web, which change the way we do science in places that are totally, sanctioned. I can probably pull out a couple statements about these shadow libraries, and not to advertise them, but just to say that there are people who have gone through this in history, probably started off with rewriting prints that was kind of restricted at some time in the Soviet Union. And this kind of culture grew into these huge shadow libraries. So you can read on the the genesis of library genesis, which pretty much has been studied from a social network perspective, in the way information has been changed and diffused across scholars where it had not been possible before. So people in the chat have been also mentioning JSTOR access. People had just put in the link for library genesis. I'm just conveying what's been studied even in our field, you know, the coming to life of this library genesis as a huge shadow library with nearly unlimited access to all science production and literature production. So I think this has changed the community, and I don't know how much people at